You know that feeling when someone pushes your buttons and you react instantly, saying something you immediately regret? That split second where your calm facade crumbles and you become exactly the kind of person you swore you'd never be? You're tired of it, aren't you? Tired of being at the mercy of other people's moods, their words, their chaos. Tired of your inner peace depending on whether the world decides to cooperate with you today. But here's what's eating at you even more. You know you're capable of so much more. You've caught glimpses of that unshakable version of yourself, the one who stays centered no matter what storm is raging around them. The one who responds instead of reacts, who commands respect simply by being present. You've seen that person in the mirror during your strongest moments, and you want them back permanently. What if I told you that the secret to never losing your calm again isn't about changing your circumstances, but about fundamentally changing who you are in the face of those circumstances? What if the ancient wisdom of the Stoics could transform you from someone who gets thrown off balance by every emotional hurricane into someone who becomes the eye of the storm itself? This isn't about suppressing your emotions or pretending everything is fine. This is about building an internal fortress so strong that nothing and no one can shake your foundation. This is about becoming the kind of person who radiates calm confidence because they've mastered the art of emotional sovereignty. The 10 principles I'm about to share with you aren't just habits. They're the building blocks of a completely different way of existing in this world. A way that turns you from a victim of circumstances into the architect of your own inner peace. If you're ready to stop being a passenger in your own emotional life and start becoming the kind of person others look to when everything falls apart, then what happens next will change everything for you. And if this resonates with the person you're determined to become, subscribe now, because this journey requires commitment, and I want to walk this path with people who are serious about transformation. Number 1, before you react, breathe. You know that moment when someone says something that hits you like a lightning bolt, and before you can even think, words are already flying out of your mouth? Words you can't take back. Words that reveal a version of yourself you didn't know existed. In that split second, you become a stranger to yourself, driven by something primal and destructive. You've been there, haven't you? Standing in the aftermath of your own emotional explosion, wondering how someone you respect could have said those things. The truth is, most people live their entire lives as prisoners of their first impulse. They mistake reaction for strength, speed for wisdom. They believe that the fastest response is the most authentic one. But here's what they don't understand. Between every stimulus and every response lies a sacred space. In that space lives your power to choose. In that space lives your freedom. This is not about suppressing your emotions or pretending they don't exist. This is about recognizing that your breath is the bridge between your animal impulses and your highest self. When you pause to breathe, you're not showing weakness. You're accessing a power that most people never discover. You're stepping into the driver's seat of your own life. Picture this. You're standing at the edge of a cliff, and someone pushes you. Most people would fall immediately, screaming all the way down. But what if, in that moment of falling, you could sprout wings? What if that push became the very thing that taught you to fly? That's what conscious breathing does. It transforms the push into the power. I once knew a man who worked in the most chaotic environment imaginable. Every day, people would come to him with their problems, their anger, their desperation. For years, he absorbed it all, reacted to everything, and went home emotionally destroyed. Then one day, he discovered something that changed everything. He learned to breathe before he spoke. Not deep meditation breathing, not complicated techniques, just 3 conscious breaths before responding to anything that triggered him. Within weeks, people began to notice something different about him. His voice carried a different weight. His presence commanded a different kind of respect. He had discovered that the person who controls their breath controls their destiny. He had learned that in those 3 breaths, he could choose who he wanted to be in that moment. But here's the breakthrough that will change everything for you. When you breathe consciously before reacting, you're not just managing your emotions, you're rewiring your brain. You're building new neural pathways that lead to wisdom instead of regret. You're training your nervous system to respond from strength instead of fear. Your body knows this truth even when your mind forgets it. When you're angry, your breathing becomes shallow and rapid. When you're calm, your breathing is deep and steady. But here's the secret. You can reverse this process. You can use your breath to command your emotions instead of being commanded by them. The next time someone or something triggers you, remember this. The quality of your life is determined not by what happens to you, but by the space you create between what happens and how you respond. That space is your sanctuary. That space is your power. That space is accessed through your breath. Your breath is not just air entering and leaving your body. It's the rhythm of your sovereignty. It's the tempo of your freedom. When you master your breath, you master your life. When you rush past your breath, you surrender your power to whoever or whatever pushed your buttons. The world is full of people who have never learned this secret. They live their lives as emotional pinballs, bouncing from reaction to reaction, never understanding that they have the power to pause, to breathe, to choose. Don't be one of them. Don't let the speed of your reaction determine the direction of your life. Your breath is your first and most powerful tool for transformation. It costs nothing, requires no special equipment, and is available to you in every moment. But like any tool, it only works if you use it. The choice is yours. Will you be someone who reacts from impulse or someone who responds from wisdom? The path to emotional mastery begins with a single breath. The journey to becoming unshakable starts with this one simple act. Breathe before you react and watch as your entire world begins to shift. Number 2, observe without absorbing. There's a voice in your head that doesn't belong to you. It's the echo of every cruel comment, every dismissive remark, every piece of negativity that someone else dumped at your doorstep. You know it's there, don't you? That internal critic that sounds suspiciously like your worst enemy, playing their words on repeat long after they've forgotten they ever said them. You've become a storage unit for other people's emotional garbage. You take in their anger, their jealousy, their insecurities, and somehow you've convinced yourself that carrying their poison is part of being a good person. But here's what's killing you. You've lost the ability to distinguish between what's yours and what belongs to someone else. The mind, when left unguarded, becomes like a house with no doors. Every stranger can walk in, track mud across your floors, and leave their mess for you to clean up. But you were never meant to be a dumping ground for other people's emotional waste. You were meant to be a fortress, impenetrable to the chaos that doesn't serve your highest good. Think of your consciousness as a pristine mountain lake. Every negative comment, every toxic interaction, every piece of mental pollution that you absorb is like someone throwing a stone into that lake. One stone creates ripples that fade quickly, but when you allow stone after stone to be thrown, the water becomes murky, disturbed, no longer reflecting the clear sky above. I witnessed this truth in the life of a woman who worked in customer service. Every day she faced angry customers who treated her as if she were responsible for every problem in their lives. For months she absorbed their anger, their frustration, their verbal abuse. She carried it home, replayed their words during dinner, and lost sleep over the cruelty of strangers. Then something shifted. She realized that their anger was not about her at all. It was about their own pain, their own failures, their own inability to handle life's disappointments. She learned to observe their behavior without absorbing their emotions. She became like a skilled meteorologist, watching the storm without getting soaked by the rain. The transformation was remarkable. Her shoulders relaxed. Her voice regained its natural warmth. She discovered that she could be compassionate without being a victim, helpful without being a target. She learned the difference between empathy and emotional contamination. This is the truth that will set you free. You are not required to absorb other people's emotional energy. You are not responsible for managing their feelings or carrying their burdens. You can witness their struggle without making it your own. You can observe their behavior without internalizing their judgment. When someone throws their negativity at you, you have a choice. You can catch it, hold it, and make it part of your inner landscape. Or you can let it pass through you like wind through an open window. You can acknowledge its presence without giving it residence in your mind. The secret lies in understanding that their words are not descriptions of who you are. They are revelations of who they are. When someone attacks you, they're showing you their wounds, not your weaknesses. When someone criticizes you unfairly, they're projecting their own self-hatred, not identifying your flaws. Your job is not to prove them wrong or convince them of your worth. Your job is to remain untouchable by their inability to see clearly. Your job is to protect the sacred space of your inner peace from the chaos of their inner turmoil. This doesn't mean becoming cold or indifferent. It means developing the wisdom to know where you end and others begin. It means creating boundaries that protect your emotional sanctuary while still allowing you to engage with the world with an open heart. The people who hurt you are often the ones who hurt the most. Their cruelty is a cry for help, their attacks a desperate attempt to feel powerful in a world that has made them feel small. You can have compassion for their pain without absorbing their poison. Your peace of mind is not negotiable. Your emotional well-being is not a sacrifice you make for others. Your mental clarity is not a luxury you can afford to lose. When you protect these things, you're not being selfish, you're being wise. The world is full of people who have never learned to manage their own emotions, so they try to manage yours instead. They dump their anxiety on you and expect you to carry it. They project their insecurities onto you and demand that you fix them. But you were never meant to be their emotional caretaker. Learn to observe without absorbing. Watch their behavior without internalizing their judgment. See their pain without making it your own. This is not coldness. This is wisdom. This is the path to emotional freedom. Number 3, don't engage in useless arguments. You know that feeling when you're pulled into an argument that you never wanted to have, about something that doesn't really matter, with someone who has no intention of listening? You find yourself raising your voice, your heart racing, your mind spinning with comebacks and defensive strategies. And somewhere in the middle of it all, a small voice inside you whispers, "How did I get here? This isn't who I want to be." The truth is, most arguments are not about the topic being discussed. They're about wounded pride, threatened egos, and the desperate need to be right. They're about two people trying to prove their worth by making the other person wrong. They're about control, not understanding. They're about winning, not truth. You've been there, haven't you? Standing in the wreckage of a relationship that was destroyed not by any real disagreement, but by the stubborn refusal of two people to let go of being right. You've felt the hollow victory of winning an argument while losing someone you care about. You've experienced the bitter taste of proving your point while poisoning your peace. Here's what most people never realize. Every time you engage in a useless argument, you're not just wasting your time, you're surrendering your power. You're allowing someone else to hijack your emotional state, to dictate your mood, to control your inner world. You're giving them the remote control to your peace of mind. Imagine your inner peace as a beautiful garden that you've spent years cultivating. Every time you engage in a pointless argument, you're inviting someone to storm through your garden, trampling your flowers, disturbing your tranquility. And the most tragic part is that you're holding the gate open for them. There was a man I knew who was brilliant at his work but terrible at his relationships. He had an opinion about everything and felt compelled to correct everyone. He would argue with his wife about the proper way to load the dishwasher, with his colleagues about minor details in reports, with strangers on the internet about topics he barely understood. He was technically right most of the time, but he was miserable all of the time. One day, after yet another argument had cost him a friendship, he had a revelation. He realized that he had been treating every disagreement as if it were a matter of life and death. He had been so focused on winning that he had forgotten what he was fighting for. He had been so concerned with being right that he had lost sight of being happy. The transformation began when he learned to ask himself a simple question before engaging in any argument. What am I really fighting for here? Not what he was fighting about, but what he was fighting for. Was he fighting for truth, for justice, for something that would make the world a better place? Or was he fighting for his ego, for the satisfaction of being right, for the temporary high of intellectual domination? Most of the time, he discovered, he was fighting for nothing worth having. He was spending his precious life energy on battles that would be forgotten by tomorrow with people who would never change their minds anyway. He was trading his peace for the illusion of victory. This is the truth that will revolutionize your relationships. You don't have to respond to every challenge. You don't have to correct every mistake. You don't have to engage with every provocation. Your silence is not agreement. Your refusal to argue is not surrender. It's strength. When someone tries to pull you into an argument, they're essentially asking you to dance to their emotional music. They're inviting you to abandon your center and meet them in their chaos. But you have the power to decline the invitation. You have the wisdom to refuse the dance. The moment you realize that you don't have to prove anything to anyone, you become truly free. The moment you understand that your worth is not determined by your ability to win arguments, you discover your real power. The moment you choose peace over being right, you step into a different category of human being. But here's the secret that changes everything. When you stop arguing, you don't lose your voice. You find it. When you stop trying to convince others, you become truly convincing. When you stop fighting for your position, you discover your true position of strength. The people who argue the most are often the ones who are the least sure of themselves. They need external validation to feel secure in their beliefs. They need to convert others to feel confident in their choices. But when you know who you are and what you stand for, you don't need anyone else's agreement to feel complete. Your energy is sacred, your peace is precious, your time is irreplaceable. Don't waste any of these treasures on arguments that will never lead to understanding, with people who are more interested in being right than being happy. The strongest people in the world are not the ones who win every argument. They're the ones who choose their battles wisely, who preserve their energy for fights that matter, who understand that sometimes the most powerful thing you can do is absolutely nothing at all. Silence is not always golden, but it's always wise when the alternative is a useless argument. Your peace is worth more than any point you could ever make. Number 4, change the thought, not the problem. You're lying awake at 3 in the morning, your mind spinning the same story over and over again. The story of how unfair life is, how people have wronged you, how circumstances have conspired against you. You replay the scenes like a director obsessed with a tragic film, each viewing making the characters more villainous, the plot more hopeless, the ending more devastating. But here's what's torturing you. It's not the events themselves that are stealing your sleep. It's the story you're telling yourself about those events. It's the meaning you've assigned to what happened. It's the narrative you've constructed around your pain. You've become both the author and the victim of your own suffering. The mind is a meaning-making machine. It takes raw experience and weaves it into stories that explain why things happen and what they mean about you, about others, about the world. But here's what most people never discover. You are not a passive victim of your mind's storytelling. You are the editor. You have the power to revise the script. Every event in your life is neutral until you assign meaning to it. When someone doesn't return your call, that's just a fact. When you decide it means they don't care about you, that's a story. When you don't get the promotion, that's just information. When you conclude it means you're not good enough, that's interpretation. And interpretation is where your power lies. Think of your mind as a courtroom where you're both the prosecutor and the defense attorney. The prosecutor presents the case for why you should suffer, why you should feel victimized, why you should give up. The defense attorney presents the case for why you should grow, why you should feel empowered, why you should keep going. The verdict you reach determines the quality of your life. I once knew a woman who lost her job after 15 years with the same company. The prosecutor in her mind immediately built a case. She was too old, not skilled enough, a failure. She was a victim of corporate cruelty, doomed to irrelevance. This story consumed her for months, paralyzing her with depression and fear. Then something shifted. She began to question the prosecution's case. What if losing her job wasn't evidence of her inadequacy, but proof that she had outgrown that environment? What if it wasn't a tragedy but a liberation? What if it wasn't an ending but a beginning? She started building a different case. Maybe she had been playing it safe for too long. Maybe she had been accepting less than she deserved. Maybe the universe was pushing her towards something better. She rewrote her story from victim to victor, from failure to freedom seeker. The transformation was remarkable. The same woman who had been devastated by losing her job became energized by the possibility of creating a new one. She started her own consulting business, made more money than she ever had, and gained a level of professional satisfaction she had never experienced. The facts didn't change. She still lost her job. But the story changed everything. The meaning she assigned to the event determined her response to it. The narrative she chose shaped her destiny. This is the truth that will liberate you. You are not at the mercy of your circumstances. You are at the mercy of your interpretation of your circumstances. You cannot always control what happens to you, but you can always control what you make it mean. When something painful happens, your mind will immediately start writing a story about it. Most of the time, it will write a story that makes you the victim, that emphasizes your powerlessness, that predicts more suffering. But you don't have to accept the first draft. You can demand rewrites. Ask yourself, what else could this mean? How else could I look at this? What if this is happening for me, not to me? What if this is preparing me for something better? What if this is teaching me something I need to learn? What if this is redirecting me toward my true path? You don't have to pretend that painful things don't hurt. You don't have to convince yourself that everything is wonderful when it's not. But you do have the power to choose empowering meanings over victimizing ones. You do have the ability to write stories that heal instead of stories that hurt. The most successful people in the world are not the ones who never face problems. They're the ones who have mastered the art of reframing problems. They don't waste energy trying to change what happened. They invest energy in changing what it means. Your life is not determined by what happens to you. It's determined by what you decide those happenings mean. You are not a victim of your circumstances. You are a victim of your interpretations. And interpretations, unlike circumstances, are completely within your control. The problem you're facing right now is not really the problem. The problem is the story you're telling yourself about the problem. Change the story, and you change your life. The pen is in your hand. The page is blank. What story will you write? Stop trying to change the world. Start changing the way you see the world. Stop trying to fix the problem. Start fixing the way you think about the problem. That's where your true power lies. That's where your freedom begins. Number 5, don't expect others to act like you. You've been disappointed so many times that you've lost count. You give your loyalty and receive betrayal. You offer your kindness and get cruelty in return. You show up with integrity and watch others choose convenience over character. And each time you find yourself asking the same painful question, how could they do this to me? I would never treat someone this way. That question is both your wound and your prison. You've been measuring everyone else by your own standards, expecting them to have your values, your conscience, your commitment to doing what's right. You've been assuming that if you treat people well, they'll treat you well in return. You've been living in a world where fairness is a contract that everyone has signed, but you're the only one who's actually read the terms. The truth is, you've been setting yourself up for heartbreak by expecting others to be who you are. You've been creating disappointment by assuming that your way of being in the world is the only way, the natural way, the way that makes sense to everyone. But here's what's been breaking your heart. Not everyone has your heart. People don't act based on who you are. They act based on who they are. They don't respond to your kindness because they share your values. They respond according to their own capacity, their own wounds, their own level of emotional development. You are not a mirror that reflects their character. You are a light that reveals it. Think of it this way. You are a gardener who has spent years cultivating beautiful flowers. You water them with care, tend them with love, and protect them from harm. Then you expect the weeds to behave like flowers. You expect them to grow with the same grace, to bloom with the same beauty, to contribute to the garden in the same way. But weeds are not flowers. They never were, and they never will be. I knew a man who built his entire career on trust and integrity. He kept his word, honored his commitments, and treated everyone with respect. He assumed that business was conducted by people who shared these values. For years, he was taken advantage of, betrayed by partners, and left holding the bag while others walked away with the profits. The breaking point came when someone he considered a friend stole a major client and spread lies about his character. He was devastated, not just by the betrayal, but by his own inability to see it coming. He had projected his own integrity onto someone who had never possessed it. But then came the transformation. He realized that he had been living in a fantasy world where everyone played by the same rules he did. He understood that his mistake was not in being a person of integrity, but in expecting everyone else to be the same. He learned to honor his own values while accepting the reality of others' limitations. This didn't make him cynical or cold. It made him wise. He continued to act with integrity, but he stopped expecting it from others. He continued to be kind, but he stopped assuming that kindness would always be returned. He continued to trust, but he learned to trust wisely. The shift in his life was profound. He stopped being disappointed by people's behavior because he stopped expecting them to be different than they were. He started succeeding in business because he planned for people's limitations instead of hoping for their transformation. He found peace because he accepted reality instead of demanding that it match his ideals. This is the truth that will set you free. Your values are not universal laws. Your standards are not everyone's standards. Your way of being in the world is not the only way or even the most common way. You are not typical. You are exceptional. And exceptional people often suffer because they expect others to be exceptional too. When you give your loyalty to someone, you're not making a transaction. You're making a choice. You're choosing to be loyal because loyalty is important to you, not because you're guaranteed to receive loyalty in return. When you act with integrity, you're not signing a contract. You're expressing your character. The people who disappoint you are not bad people. They're just people operating from a different set of values, a different level of awareness, a different capacity for connection. They're not failing to be you. They're succeeding at being themselves. Your job is not to change them or fix them or teach them to be more like you. Your job is to protect your own peace by adjusting your expectations to match reality. Your job is to continue being who you are while accepting others as they are. This doesn't mean lowering your standards or compromising your values. It means being strategic about who you invest in, who you trust, who you allow into your inner circle. It means giving people what they can handle and expecting from them only what they're capable of giving. The people who are meant to be in your life will rise to meet your energy. The people who aren't will reveal themselves through their inability to match your investment. Both outcomes are gifts. One gives you genuine connection. The other gives you valuable information. Stop breaking your own heart by expecting others to have your heart. Stop setting yourself up for disappointment by assuming everyone shares your values. Act from your integrity, but don't expect everyone to understand it. Give from your abundance, but don't expect everyone to appreciate it. Your character is not determined by how others treat you. It's determined by how you treat others, regardless of how they treat you. That's the difference between reacting from expectations and acting from values. That's the difference between being disappointed and being free. Number 6, master the body to master the mind. Your body is sending you messages that you're not receiving. Right now, as you listen to these words, your shoulders are carrying tension that doesn't belong to them. Your jaw is clenched around words you haven't spoken. Your breathing is shallow, as if you're afraid to take up the space that's rightfully yours. Your body is having a conversation with your emotions, and you're not listening. You've been trying to think your way out of what you felt your way into. You've been attempting to use your mind to solve problems that your body is creating. You've been fighting emotional battles with intellectual weapons and wondering why you keep losing. But here's the truth that will change everything. Your body is not separate from your mind. It's the foundation of your mind. Every emotion you feel is first felt in your body. Anger tightens your muscles. Fear shortens your breath. Sadness weighs down your posture. Joy lifts your chest. Your body is the early warning system for your emotional state, the first responder to every internal crisis. But most people ignore these signals until it's too late, until their emotions have already hijacked their responses. You've been living as if your body is just a vehicle for your mind, a container for your thoughts. But your body is your ally in the battle for emotional control. It's your partner in the dance of self-mastery. It's your most honest advisor, the one part of you that never lies about how you really feel. Think of your body as a skilled musician and your emotions as the music. When the musician is tense, the music is harsh. When the musician is relaxed, the music is beautiful. You cannot play beautiful music with a tense body, and you cannot experience emotional peace with a body that's at war with itself. I once worked with a woman who struggled with anxiety that seemed to come from nowhere. She would be having a perfectly normal day, and suddenly she would be overwhelmed by panic. She spent years trying to think her way out of it, analyzing every possible trigger, searching for the psychological root of her fear. Then she made a discovery that changed her life. She realized that her anxiety always began in her body. Her shoulders would tense, her breathing would become shallow, her jaw would clench. These physical changes happened before she was consciously aware of feeling anxious. Her body was preparing for a threat before her mind had even identified what that threat might be. She began to pay attention to these early warning signals. When she noticed her shoulders rising, she would consciously relax them. When she felt her breathing becoming shallow, she would deliberately deepen it. When she caught her jaw clenching, she would gently release it. The transformation was remarkable. By intervening at the body level, she was able to interrupt the anxiety cycle before it spiraled out of control. She learned that she didn't have to be a victim of her emotions. She could be an active participant in managing them. This is the secret that most people never discover. You don't have to wait for your emotions to change before you can change your body. You can change your body in order to change your emotions. You can use your physical state to influence your mental state. You can be the conductor of your own internal orchestra. When you're feeling angry, instead of trying to think your way out of it, try changing your posture. Stand tall, relax your shoulders, soften your facial expression. When you're feeling afraid, instead of fighting the fear with logic, try changing your breathing. Breathe deeply, slowly, intentionally. When you're feeling sad, instead of analyzing the sadness, try changing your movement. Walk taller, move with purpose, engage your body in the act of feeling better. Your body is not just along for the ride, it's driving the car. Your emotions are not separate from your physical state. They are your physical state. The way you hold your body determines the way you hold your emotions. The way you move through space determines the way you move through life. The people who have mastered their emotions have first mastered their bodies. They understand that self-control is not just a mental discipline, it's a physical discipline. They know that the path to emotional freedom runs through the body, not around it. This is not about suppressing your emotions or pretending they don't exist. This is about creating a partnership between your body and your mind, a collaboration between your physical state and your emotional state. This is about using your body as a tool for emotional regulation, not a victim of emotional chaos. Your body is the most sophisticated biofeedback system ever created. It tells you when you're stressed before you consciously realize it. It alerts you to danger before your mind has processed the threat. It signals attraction, repulsion, comfort, and discomfort with precision that your thoughts cannot match. But you have to listen, you have to pay attention, you have to treat your body as a trusted advisor, not an inconvenient necessity. You have to learn its language, respect its wisdom, and partner with its intelligence. The next time you feel overwhelmed, don't just think about it. Feel it. Where is it in your body? What does it want you to do? How can you work with it instead of against it? Your body is not your enemy. It's your greatest ally in the quest for emotional mastery. Master your body and you master your emotions. Master your emotions and you master your life. The path to inner peace is not in your head, it's in your body. Listen to it, learn from it. Let it lead you home to yourself. Number 7, distance yourself from what unbalances you. You know those people who drain the life out of you without even trying? The ones who turn every conversation into a complaint session, every gathering into a drama rehearsal, every interaction into an energy extraction? You walk into their presence feeling vibrant and walk out feeling depleted. You start the conversation optimistic and end it questioning everything about yourself and your life. But here's what's been destroying your peace. You've been treating this energy drain as inevitable, as the price you pay for being a caring person. You've been convincing yourself that enduring toxic environments is a sign of strength, that tolerating emotional vampires is a virtue. You've been sacrificing your inner peace on the altar of other people's comfort. The truth is, you've been living in environments that poison your spirit so gradually that you don't even notice it happening. Like a fish in water that's slowly heating up, you've adapted to toxicity until it feels normal. You've normalized stress, accepted chaos, and made friends with dysfunction. You've forgotten what it feels like to breathe clean air. You are not required to set yourself on fire to keep others warm. You are not obligated to absorb other people's negativity to prove your compassion. You are not responsible for managing everyone else's emotional temperature while your own inner climate suffers. Your energy is not infinite. Your patience is not bottomless. Your capacity for tolerance is not unlimited. Every minute you spend in an environment that depletes you is a minute stolen from your potential, your joy, your peace. You are not being noble by enduring what diminishes you. You are being wasteful with the most precious resource you have, your life force. Imagine your inner peace as a clear, still pond. Every toxic interaction is like someone throwing mud into that pond. One handful of mud might not be noticeable, but handful after handful, day after day, and soon your clear water becomes murky, your reflection becomes distorted, your peace becomes unrecognizable. I knew a man who worked in an office where negativity was the currency of communication. Gossip, criticism, and complaints filled the air like toxic smoke. He thought he was immune to it, that he could rise above it, that his positive attitude would protect him from the contamination. But slowly, imperceptibly, he began to change. He started coming home exhausted even on days when he hadn't worked hard. He found himself being more critical of his family, more impatient with his children, more irritable with his wife. The toxicity he thought he was resisting was actually infecting him. The turning point came when his young daughter asked him why he was always angry now. He realized that he had been carrying the office environment home with him, that the negativity he absorbed during the day was poisoning his evenings. He had become a carrier of the very toxicity he thought he was above. He made a decision that changed his life. He began to limit his exposure to the most toxic people in his office. He stopped participating in gossip sessions. He ate lunch away from the complainers. He found ways to insulate himself from the negativity without being rude or unprofessional. The transformation was remarkable. His energy returned, his optimism was restored, his family got their husband and father back. He learned that protecting his peace wasn't selfish, it was necessary. This is the truth that will revolutionize your life. You have the right to curate your environment. You have the power to choose who has access to your energy. You have the authority to decide what conversations you participate in, what environments you frequent, what energy you allow into your space. Distance is not always geographical. Sometimes it's emotional, sometimes it's conversational, sometimes it's simply the decision to stop absorbing what others are projecting. You can be physically present while being emotionally protected. You can be kind without being available. You can be compassionate without being contaminated. The people who unbalance you are not bad people. They're just people who are out of balance themselves. They're dealing with their own pain, their own chaos, their own unresolved issues. But their healing is not your responsibility. Their peace is not your project. Their emotional stability is not your assignment. Your job is to be the guardian of your own inner sanctuary. Your job is to protect what's sacred in you from what's toxic around you. Your job is to maintain your equilibrium in a world that profits from your imbalance. This doesn't mean building walls around your heart or becoming cold and distant. It means developing the wisdom to know when to engage and when to step back. It means learning to love people from a safe distance when close proximity threatens your peace. Some relationships are meant to be maintained from far away. Some environments are meant to be visited briefly, not inhabited permanently. Some people are meant to be loved from across the room, not embraced closely. This is not cruelty. This is wisdom. The strongest people are not those who can endure anything. They're those who know what they cannot endure and have the courage to remove themselves from it. They're those who value their peace enough to protect it, even when that protection requires difficult choices. Your peace is not a luxury. It's a necessity. Your balance is not optional. It's essential. Your inner sanctuary is not a nice to have. It's a must-have. Protect it like your life depends on it, because it does. Distance yourself from what unbalances you, and watch as your life returns to its natural state of harmony. Your peace is worth more than any person's approval. Your balance is worth more than any environment's acceptance. Choose yourself. Choose your peace. Choose your life. Number 8, practice stoic empathy. You've been making it personal when it was never about you. That harsh comment, that dismissive attitude, that cruel behavior, You've been interpreting it as a reflection of your worth when it was actually a revelation of their wounds. You've been taking on the role of victim in someone else's drama, not realizing that you were never even cast in their play. The person who cut you off in traffic isn't angry at you. They're carrying anger that has nothing to do with you. The colleague who snapped at you in the meeting isn't responding to your words. They're responding to pressures, fears, and insecurities that you know nothing about. The friend who betrayed your trust isn't revealing your unworthiness. They're revealing their own inability to handle the gift of genuine connection. You've been living in a world where everyone's behavior is about you, where every negative interaction is a judgment on your character, where every slight is a personal attack. But here's the truth that will set you free. Most people are so consumed by their own pain that they barely see you at all. They're fighting battles you know nothing about, carrying burdens you can't imagine, wrestling with demons you've never met. This isn't about excusing bad behavior or accepting mistreatment. This is about understanding the source of human cruelty so you can protect yourself from taking it personally. This is about developing the wisdom to see beyond the surface of people's actions to the suffering that drives them. Think of every person you meet as walking around with an invisible backpack full of experiences you've never had. In that backpack might be childhood trauma, financial stress, relationship problems, health scares, career disappointments, or losses that have never healed. They're carrying this weight everywhere they go, and sometimes it's so heavy that they can't carry it gracefully. When that weight becomes unbearable, it spills out onto whoever happens to be nearby. The cashier who's rude to you might have just been yelled at by their manager. The driver who cuts you off might have just received devastating news. The person who treats you poorly might be treating themselves even worse. I once knew a woman who prided herself on being kind to everyone. She genuinely cared about people and went out of her way to help others. But she was repeatedly hurt by people who didn't appreciate her kindness, who took advantage of her generosity, who responded to her warmth with coldness. She began to take these experiences as evidence that she was naive, that kindness was weakness, that caring about others was a mistake. She started building walls around her heart, becoming more suspicious, more guarded, more afraid to be vulnerable. Then she had a conversation with an elderly man who had lived through extraordinary hardship. He told her something that changed her entire perspective. He said, "When people hurt you, they're not showing you who you are. They're showing you who they are. Your kindness is not the problem. Their inability to receive it is their tragedy, not your mistake." This shifted everything for her. She realized that she had been making other people's limitations about her own inadequacy. She had been taking responsibility for their inability to appreciate what she offered. She had been judging herself by their capacity to receive love instead of by her capacity to give it. She learned to maintain her kindness while detaching from the outcome. She continued to treat people well, but she stopped expecting them to treat her well in return. She offered her best self while accepting that others might not be able to offer theirs. This is the heart of Stoic empathy, understanding that everyone is fighting battles you know nothing about, carrying pain you can't see, dealing with challenges that would break you if you had to face them. This understanding doesn't make you weak or vulnerable. It makes you wise and free. When someone treats you poorly, ask yourself, what pain might they be carrying that's causing them to lash out? What fear might be driving their behavior? What wound might be making them act defensively? You don't have to fix their pain or solve their problems, but understanding that their behavior comes from their struggle, not your inadequacy, changes everything. This perspective doesn't mean becoming a doormat or accepting abuse. It means responding to cruelty with understanding instead of personal offense. It means recognizing that hurt people, and that their attempt to hurt you says nothing about your worth and everything about their wounds. The most powerful people are not those who never get hurt. They're those who understand why people hurt others and refuse to let that understanding turn them bitter. They're those who can see through the mask of cruelty to the pain beneath and choose compassion over retaliation. When you practice Stoic empathy, you don't just free yourself from taking things personally. You free yourself from the exhausting cycle of offense and defense that keeps most people trapped in emotional reactivity. You step into a higher way of being where your peace is not dependent on other people's capacity to treat you well. This is not about being naive or ignoring red flags. This is about maintaining your emotional equilibrium regardless of how others behave. This is about understanding that their behavior is about them, not about you. This is about choosing to respond from wisdom instead of wounds. The person who hurt you today is probably hurting in ways you can't imagine. The person who disappointed you is probably disappointed in themselves. The person who betrayed you is probably betraying their own values and suffering for it. This doesn't excuse their behavior, but it explains it. And in that explanation, you find your freedom, you find your peace, you find your power to respond from a place of strength instead of victimhood. You find your ability to maintain your own emotional equilibrium, regardless of the storms raging in other people's lives. Practice stoic empathy and watch as your relationships transform. Watch as your peace becomes unshakable. Watch as your understanding of human nature deepens and your capacity for genuine compassion expands. The world needs more people who can see beyond the surface to the soul beneath. Number 9, cut the excess, live the essential. You're drowning in a sea of unimportant urgencies. Your phone buzzes with notifications that steal your attention. Your calendar fills with meetings that accomplish nothing. Your mind races with worries about situations that will never happen. You're living in the shallow end of life, frantically treading water instead of swimming toward what matters. Every day, you're pulled in 1,000 directions by 1,000 things that demand your attention but deserve none of it. You respond to every email as if it's an emergency. You engage with every social media post as if it's meaningful. You worry about every opinion as if it's important. You're giving premium attention to discount experiences. The tragedy is not that you're busy. The tragedy is that you're busy with the wrong things. You're spending your irreplaceable life energy on replaceable activities. You're giving your precious time to people and pursuits that will be forgotten by tomorrow. You're living in a state of constant reaction instead of intentional action. You've become a slave to other people's priorities. Your time is no longer your own. Your attention is no longer under your control. Your energy is being scattered across a landscape of trivial concerns, while the things that could actually transform your life remain neglected. Think of your attention as a spotlight. When you try to light up everything, you illuminate nothing. When you focus that beam on what truly matters, you can see clearly, think deeply, and act decisively. But you've been trying to light up the entire world with a single spotlight, and the result is a dim, unfocused existence. The secret that successful people know is not that they do more things. It's that they do fewer things, but they do them with greater intensity, focus, and commitment. They've learned to say no to the good so they can say yes to the great. They've learned to ignore the noise so they can hear the signal. I once knew a man who prided himself on being busy. His calendar was packed from morning to night. He was always responding to emails, always in meetings, always putting out fires. He felt important because he was always needed, always in demand, always indispensable. But despite all his activity, he wasn't achieving anything meaningful. His relationships were suffering because he was always distracted. His health was deteriorating because he had no time for self-care. His dreams were dying because he had no energy left for what mattered most. One day, he had a heart attack. Not a severe one, but enough to wake him up. As he lay in the hospital bed, he realized that he had been living someone else's life, following someone else's agenda, chasing someone else's definition of success. He had been so busy being busy that he had forgotten to be purposeful. The recovery period forced him to evaluate everything. He couldn't work his usual hours, couldn't attend his usual meetings, couldn't maintain his usual pace. And something remarkable happened. The world didn't end. The company didn't collapse. The sky didn't fall. Life went on without his constant intervention. He realized that most of what he thought was essential was actually optional. Most of what he thought was urgent was actually trivial. Most of what he thought required his immediate attention could wait or didn't need to be done at all. This revelation changed his life. He began to ruthlessly eliminate everything that wasn't essential. He stopped attending meetings that weren't crucial. He stopped responding to emails that weren't important. He stopped worrying about things that weren't worth his mental energy. The transformation was remarkable. His stress levels dropped. His relationships improved. His health recovered. His work became more impactful because he was focusing on what actually mattered. He had learned the art of essential living. This is the truth that will revolutionize your life. You don't need to do everything. You don't need to be available to everyone. You don't need to respond to every demand on your time and attention. You have the power to choose what deserves your energy and what doesn't. The question is not whether you have time for what matters. The question is whether you're willing to stop giving time to what doesn't matter. The question is not whether you can add more to your life. The question is whether you can subtract what's unnecessary. Your life is not a collection of random activities. It's a carefully curated experience. You are the curator. You decide what stays and what goes. You decide what gets your attention and what gets ignored. You decide what's essential and what's excess. The people who live the most fulfilling lives are not those who do the most things. They're those who do the most meaningful things. They're those who have learned to distinguish between what's merely urgent and what's truly important. They're those who have mastered the art of saying no to preserve their yes for what matters. Every time you say yes to something unimportant, you're saying no to something that could be transformative. Every time you give your attention to something trivial, you're stealing attention from something significant. Every time you invest your energy in something temporary, you're divesting from something eternal. Look at your life right now. How much of your time is spent on things that won't matter in 5 years? How much of your energy is devoted to people who don't add value to your existence? How much of your attention is captured by activities that don't move you toward your goals? The excess in your life is not neutral. It's not harmless. It's actively preventing you from living the life you're meant to live. It's keeping you busy instead of productive, scattered instead of focused, overwhelmed instead of peaceful. Cut the excess, live the essential, focus on what matters, ignore what doesn't. Your life is too precious to waste on anything less than what's truly important. Your time is too valuable to spend on anything that doesn't serve your highest good. The path to an extraordinary life is not through addition, it's through subtraction. Not by doing more, but by doing less. Not by saying yes to everything, but by saying no to almost everything, so you can say yes to the few things that will make all the difference. Choose your life. Don't let your life choose you. Be intentional, be selective, be essential. Your future self will thank you for the courage to live deliberately instead of accidentally. Number 10, train emotional detachment. You've been holding on to things that are already gone. Relationships that ended months ago still live in your heart. Opportunities that passed you by still occupy your mind. People who have moved on still control your emotions. You're carrying the weight of what was, what might have been, and what you wish could still be. The truth is, you've been trying to control the uncontrollable. You've been fighting to keep things that don't want to be kept. You've been investing your emotional energy in people and situations that are no longer investing in you. You've been clinging to outcomes that are not yours to determine. This isn't about becoming cold or indifferent. This is about understanding the difference between caring and controlling, between loving and possessing, between being invested and being attached. This is about learning to hold things lightly, to love without desperation, to care without clinging. You've confused love with attachment, thinking that the tighter you hold on to something, the more you care about it. But attachment is not love. Attachment is fear. It's the fear of loss, the fear of change, the fear of being alone. It's the desperate attempt to make permanent what is inherently temporary. True love, true care, true investment can exist without attachment. You can want the best for someone without needing to control their choices. You can value something deeply without being devastated by its loss. You can be committed to an outcome without being enslaved by it. Imagine your emotions as a river. When you're attached, you're trying to dam the river, to stop its flow, to keep it exactly where you want it. But rivers are meant to flow. When you try to stop them, they either find another way around or they flood and destroy everything in their path. Emotional detachment is not about stopping the river. It's about learning to flow with it. It's about understanding that everything changes, everything passes, everything evolves. It's about finding peace in the impermanence instead of fighting against it. I once knew a woman who had built her entire identity around her role as a mother. Her children were her world, her purpose, her source of meaning. She loved them so intensely that she couldn't imagine life without them needing her. She was attached not just to them, but to their dependence on her. When her youngest child left for college, she was devastated. She felt like she had lost her reason for existing. She had been so attached to being needed that she had forgotten who she was beyond that role. She had been so focused on caring for others that she had neglected caring for herself. The empty nest syndrome was just the beginning. She realized that she had been so attached to one version of her life that she had made herself incapable of enjoying any other version. She had been so focused on what she was losing that she couldn't see what she was gaining. The transformation began when she learned to separate her love for her children from her attachment to their dependence. She realized that her value as a mother was not diminished by their independence. In fact, their ability to thrive without her was proof of her success, not evidence of her failure. She began to practice emotional detachment. She continued to love her children deeply, but she stopped trying to control their choices. She continued to care about their well-being, but she stopped making their happiness her responsibility. She continued to be their mother, but she stopped making that her only identity. The result was remarkable. Her relationships with her children improved because she was no longer clinging to them. Her own life flourished because she was no longer living it through them. She discovered parts of herself that had been dormant for years because she had been so focused on everyone else. This is the paradox of emotional detachment. When you stop trying to control outcomes, you become more influential. When you stop clinging to people, they want to be closer to you. When you stop being desperate for something to work out, it often does. Detachment is not about caring less. It's about caring more wisely. It's about understanding that your peace cannot be dependent on external circumstances. It's about recognizing that your happiness cannot be held hostage by other people's choices. The strongest people are not those who never let go. They're those who know when to let go. They're those who can release what's not meant for them so they can receive what is. They're those who understand that holding on to the wrong things prevents them from grasping the right things. This doesn't mean becoming passive or indifferent. It means becoming strategic about where you invest your emotional energy. It means choosing to focus on what you can control and releasing what you cannot. It means understanding that your worth is not determined by your ability to make others happy or to make situations work out the way you want them to. The people and situations that are meant to be in your life will not require you to sacrifice your peace to keep them. They will not demand that you compromise your well-being to prove your love. They will not ask you to lose yourself to find them. When you practice emotional detachment, you don't become less loving. You become more discerning. You don't become less caring. You become more selective about what deserves your care. You don't become less invested. You become more strategic about your investments. Your emotional energy is precious. Your peace of mind is irreplaceable. Your happiness is not negotiable. Don't waste these treasures on people and situations that don't appreciate their value. Don't sacrifice your well-being for outcomes that are not yours to control. The practice of emotional detachment is not about building walls around your heart. It's about building wisdom around your choices. It's about learning to love without losing yourself, to care without compromising yourself, to invest without enslaving yourself. Let go of what's not meant for you. Trust that what is meant for you will not require you to sacrifice your peace to obtain it. Practice emotional detachment and watch as your life transforms from a desperate chase for control to a peaceful dance with possibility. Your freedom lies not in getting what you want, but in wanting what you have. Your peace lies not in controlling what happens, but in accepting what happens. Your power lies not in holding on to everything, but in knowing what to hold and what to release. Train emotional detachment and discover the ultimate freedom, the freedom to be yourself, regardless of what anyone else does or doesn't do. This is the final lesson in the art of never losing your calm. This is the master key to unshakable peace. You are no longer the same person who began this journey. Something fundamental has shifted within you. You've glimpsed the architecture of unshakable peace, felt the weight of emotional sovereignty in your hands. The 10 principles you've encountered are not just concepts to understand. They are tools to wield, pathways to walk, bridges to cross from who you were to who you're becoming. Picture yourself now as a master craftsman who has just been given the blueprints to build something magnificent. You have the design, you understand the materials, you know the process. But the real work, the transformation that will define the rest of your life, begins now. Every breath you take consciously, every moment you choose observation over absorption, every time you refuse to be pulled into chaos, you are laying another stone in the foundation of your new self. The storms will still come. People will still test your boundaries. Life will still present its challenges and surprises. But you are no longer at the mercy of these external forces. You have become the eye of every storm, the calm center around which chaos can rage without touching your core. You have discovered that peace is not the absence of conflict, but the presence of choice. This is not the end of your education in emotional mastery. This is your graduation from student to practitioner. Every day forward is an opportunity to apply these principles, to refine your understanding, to deepen your practice. You are now part of a different kind of community, those who choose to respond rather than react, who understand that true strength lies in restraint, who know that the greatest victories are won in the battlefield of the mind. If you're ready to walk this path with others who share your commitment to transformation, who understand that growth is not a destination but a way of traveling, then join us. Subscribe to continue this journey of becoming the person you were always meant to be. Your calm is no longer fragile. Your peace is no longer conditional. Your strength is no longer dependent on circumstances. You have become the author of your own emotional experience. This is not just knowledge you possess. This is who you are.